Hi, and welcome to Grotendorf's Dairy in Ontario, Canada. We are bringing you this tape for one purpose, and one purpose only. This parlor, this entire dairy facility, comes about as close to perfection as we have ever gotten in the past. Perfection isn't possible, but with this facility, we, the entire team, we got close. First, let me introduce you to Henk and Ari Grotendorst, the owners of this remarkable facility. Henk, good morning. Ari, how are you?
Good.
Thanks for letting us come and visit you, and appreciate you taking the time for the videotape. Henk or Ari, either way, if you could give us a short overview of what is actually here.
Okay, we bought a farm 1.5 years, 2 years ago now actually, and we started building 1.5 years ago. We're milking this moment and 240 cows, and the average production is 33 kilograms. The rolling average from the cellar count is 147, and the protein is 338, and the fat is 378. We have also 70 dry cows and 180 piece heifers and calves or whatever.
Young stock and
young stock, yeah.
Right. Do you farm any land?
We have 388 acres, and the crop what we plant is 50-50 corn, silage, haylets, and we buy the bypass protein.
Okay. Ari, you do most of the milking?
Yeah, you're right. In the morning and in the night.
Okay. So here, Henk is saying 240 cows takes you roughly how long?
2.5 hours, included cleaning up after milking.
Okay, including cleaning up.
Yeah, you're right.
Let's go from first cow into the parlor to last cow out of the parlor. In other words, none of the preparatory work or cleanup work.
Okay, I think 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Okay, very good. Henk and Ari, why don't we leave it at that? Let's go into the parlor, show them the details, explain the facility. If you could meet with us one more time a little bit later, we want to ask you a bunch of additional questions. We'll come back to you.
Okay.
Thanks. All right. Perfection was the goal in this facility. We didn't make it. Can't make it by definition. Perfection is not possible. Perfection is only something that we can pursue and pursue and pursue. 3 teams worked together on this project: Germania Dairy Automation, Norwell Dairy System, the local dealer, and the Grotendorst brothers. We didn't reach perfection, but we came close, and now let's talk about it in detail. There are several big subjects. First of all, we'll talk about the overall layout and planning of the facility. Second, we'll talk about briefly the equipment in the parlor. Thirdly, we'll talk about the details, because that ultimately is what gets us closer to perfection. How was this facility planned? Double 16 parlor right here, milk house out front, office to the left, bathroom right there, storage room behind the bathroom with the washer and dryer for the other towers. The refrigerator is right there, some storage cabinets. Besides, this is also where they hang up their work clothes. To the right of the milk house is the machine room, and then there is an additional small room, let's just call it a second miniature milk house right below the first 2 cows of the right-hand side of the parlor, where we installed the receive all system. Above all, what the Grotendorst brothers really wanted was a milking parlor that basically has nothing to do with a normal milking parlor, other than certainly that this is the place where we milk cows. What they wanted was a work area that is identical, similar to any other civilized place to work in America. A restaurant, for example, a hotel kitchen, an electronic assembly facility. What do all those places have in common? Friendly, lots of light, absolutely clean, maybe a radio playing in the background, well ventilated in the summer, well heated in the winter. In other words, a facility where all of us like to be, and especially the cows. Here's how they did it. First of all, let's talk about light. Right up there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12 high power overhead lights for artificial light down the center of the parlor. In addition to the artificial light, and much more important, lots and lots and lots of daylight. Look at that. Clear panels from the very front of the milking parlor to the very rear of the holding pen. Look at all the light coming in. You know why that's so important? People, animals, everybody, we love to spend our time in places that are well lit. In addition to that, and don't overlook that, a parlor that is well lit makes the dirt visible, and the owner, the milkers, tend to keep it cleaner. So not only do we have lots of natural light coming in, plus the artificial light, we need that for the night obviously, but in addition to that, we made sure that we use this light as efficiently as possible, and that is why all the walls are white. The floor covering is white, the ceiling is white. In other words, as long as we're bringing all of this light in, we may as well spread it around as efficiently as possible. Don't overlook, if this parlor had black floor mats or even dark gray floor mats, any dark color consumes light. It makes it disappear. Ventilation. You can smell the videotape, but take my word for it, there is no smell in this parlor whatsoever. Why? First of all, there are 5 skylights right there. Even today on a relatively cool day, it's maybe 35 degrees outside, they are open and there's just the slightest movement of air into the parlor and through the ceiling. In the summer, as you can imagine, these clear panels come down, and I mean all the way down, and we have just a wonderful breeze blowing through the parlor. It's a great way to milk cows. You may be worried about flies with all the windows open, but a good way to control them are these whirligigs up there. As long as they run at a certain speed, it keeps the flies under control reasonably well. As long as we're looking at the whirligigs up there, take a look at the speaker system. This parlor has one of the finest stereo systems, CDs included. Now, does music make a difference? We'll argue about that some other time, but in my personal opinion, if you can supply just the right music, whatever makes the milker happy, if you can make the milker happy with country, classic or easy listening, that'll have a direct effect on the cows and therefore, as far as I'm concerned, on milk production. I'm absolutely convinced. A minute ago we talked about the floor mats as far as the light is concerned. You know what? Floor mats like this are an absolute must in a new milking parlor. They add to the milker's comfort. You know, it's a little bit softer, a little bit easier to get around. It's a sure-footed way to milk cows, and besides, it makes a parlor look friendly. In this case, they decided to use green and white floor mats. Great. They then took that combination, green and white, also into the walls, so there's a green strip installed all around the parlor. Doesn't make a difference. I don't know why they chose green. Maybe they come from Holland and all of Holland is green. We have parlors installed red and white, beautiful, blue and white, white and gray, whatever turns you on. Make it a 3-color combination. Add some hand-painted tiles imported from Holland. Whatever. As long as you're spending the money to put a new milking parlor in, why not do something like this and add a little bit of color, something that looks friendly, adds a touch of class and maybe even a touch of art if that's what's necessary. Floor mats. Let's take a look at the cow floor. This is a epoxy covering, maybe 1/4 of an inch thick, added after the concrete was well cured. It's a combination of epoxy and sand, and it has a number of advantages, and you absolutely positively want to consider it in your parlor. Number 1, sure-footedness for the cows. Positively, absolutely, guaranteed. They cannot slip on this. But the real nice part is that it is acid and detergent resistant. Take a look at this area right here. Normally, in this area, right underneath the udder, after about just about now, this facility is 15 months old, 18 months old. Usually after about 18 months or 2 years, we can see the concrete being eaten away by a combination of teat dip and milk and acid and detergent, whatever. And after 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, you have tremendous holes here and you have to have a new floor. Look at this. This floor is 15 months old. There is not even a hint of wear and tear or chemical erosion. One other minor detail I would like to point out. In the normal parlor, the cows stand up there, cow platform, they walk out right next to the windows or right next to the walls, and the walls get dirty. If they're close to the windows get dirty. And then certainly, when you, the owner, has to walk from the milk house, or let's just say anywhere the front of the parlor to the rear of the parlor, you walk over the cow platform and through the manure. Here, Hank and Ari decided on a significant improvement, and that is 2 separate people alleys right there, down the left and the right side of the parlor, well lit in the evening, so there is never any cross traffic between people and cows. So as they arrive in the back of the parlor, or for that matter, when they are coming from the back of the parlor, there's a boot washing station back there, so they come out of the freestall barn, wash their boots off right there, and walk through the people alleys into the office, into the milk house, wherever, not tracking any manure toward the front of the facility. Excellent, excellent point. The Grotendorf brothers decided on a herringbone parlor. Why herringbone? Mostly because they milked it a parallel and didn't like it. Why herringbone? Because it's the only civilized way to milk your cows. You get the highest quality milking here. It's the cleanest way to milk cows. It's the least stressful way to milk cows. It is just a smooth, pleasant way to go about the business of dairying. Let's cover a couple of the details real quick. What do we actually have here? There's a Germania automatically sequenced cow traffic system, which the milker initiates by pushing the brisket bar up button after he post-dips the last cow. The brisket bar in front of the cow retracts from indexing, goes up at the same time, stays up there for about a couple, 2, 3, 4 seconds, comes down automatically, and as it lowers into the lowest position, it opens the entrance gate automatically and starts the crowd gate automatically. In other words, the cows leave the parlor in something like 6, 8, or 10 seconds at the most, and the parlor reloads, or this side of the parlor reloads, in maybe another 30 to 45 seconds. What's Ari doing during this time? Basically not much. He's trained and he tries to not to pay too much attention to cow traffic out and cow traffic in, so he gets maybe a half a minute to change towels, get rid of the dirty towels, reload the clean towels, and basically stand in the front here waiting for the cows to come to him. Milking cows in a herringbone is the most civilized way to go about it. Why? Look at it. As you attach the machines, the claw hangs there already, perfectly presented, waiting for you. Push a button, move it underneath the udder, attach 2 teat cups at a time. If you're skilled, and maybe not, then 1 at a time. When the machine shuts off, we can actually wait under the residual vacuum, which is still there, right there in the claw and in the milk house. Until that residual vacuum has disappeared, the teat cups fall off the udder sort of on their own, and ever so easy, we move the claw into the rest position. This is a double 16 parlor, 1-man operated, maybe 65 feet long, where the arm takeoffs help Ari be efficient and support his work routine. Has to do with that there is no squawking and no fall-offs for all practical purposes. You see, with the arm takeoffs, the arm supports the weight of the claw, the weight of the teat cups. Therefore, there's no gravity working on the milking unit as far as the udder is concerned. And therefore, if we do get a little bit of a collapsing teat, no air rushes in because the teat cup moves up just a little bit. Net effect, no squawking. Ari does not have to worry about teat cups squawking in the front of this parlor. when he is working in the back and vice versa. Hank and Ari decided to go with Germania AccuWays. Why AccuWays instead of flow-through meters? Very simple. First of all, they hold about 42 kilograms. The point is they hold the entire milk. This is not a flow-through meter. The AccuWay holds the entire milk, and the nice part is, rather than studying displays and keeping an eye on them, in this case, just before the cows leave, just before Ari pushes the brisket bar up button, he can take one last look at all the AccuWays and see whether one cow might be out of whack. Let's say she's in heat for whatever reason, but he can immediately see if one cow only gave 3, 4, 5, 6 pounds, in other words, substantially less than the average of the group she is into. Maybe the machine did come off early. They went with AccuWays because there's no moving parts, there's no electronics, and they have a great vacuum reserve above the level of milk right there, sort of like milking straight into a bucket for all practical purposes. Believe it or not, these containers are fully computerized, and yes, I said without the use of electronics. We computerize them by weighing the milk, easy enough to understand. The more milk there is, the heavier the container is. Believe it or not, we are weighing the milk with the use of hydraulically operated load cells. No electronics, no moving parts. There's the hydraulic load cell, the white hose which goes from here into the receive all milk house. They terminate at these control boxes right there, and inside the control boxes we have transducers which convert the varying pressure from the oil, put into the oil by the varying amounts of milk, into a varying voltage, and then we feed the varying voltage into the computer in the office, where we then process it just as in any other normal computerized weigh meter system. Bottom line, in this parlor, no moving parts, no electronics. One minor exception, the cow ID system is indeed electronically operated. The cows are identified as they walk through the entrance gate antenna loop. By the way, there's a simple method on how the computer and the milker communicate. If something goes wrong, the computer notices something that is slightly out of whack, the computer turns on these lights, either red or green or blinking, which tells the milker something is wrong on this side. He then goes to the keyboard right there. The keyboard, first of all, will tell him something is wrong, stall number 7. The milker corrects whatever may be wrong, punches in the information. In other words, the red light is the computer's way of communicating with the milker. The keyboard is the milker's way of communicating with the computer. The CIP holders, by the way, are automated. At the end of milking, they extend automatically. The milker puts the claws on, goes through a CIP cycle. At the end of the CIP cycle, they retract automatically. What's nice about it is that you know these Jetta holders will be retracted, guaranteed, because they're in the way during milking, and besides, the milker does it with a simple push of the button. No flies, no manure, no cow hair. These are stored properly while you're milking cows. The stalls, by the way, are freestanding. There are no supports across the pit and no supports across the cow platform. These stalls are literally freestanding, supported on the curb, reinforced with a gusset, and as you can imagine, behind that gusset, a massive amount of rebar, which takes any forces imposed on these stalls by the cows into the concrete underneath their feet. Freestanding because we want these parlors wide open. And look what that did for Hank and Ari's parlor. It's wide open to the ceiling, lots of light, no possibility to hang lunch buckets and aprons and ropes across the pipes that are normally installed between the two sides, and wide open over the cows on the cow platform. So when the cows walk in, everything is open for them. They can see where they are going. Why not for both the milker and the cows. Keep it open and avoid the dungeons and the cages and all those things that you have seen before. Take a look at the milk line. For some strange reason or another, it disappears into the floor. Would you believe no receiver groups in the breezeway, or in this case, no receiver groups in the milk house? This is a Germania receive all system installed in a separate little milk house underneath the first 2 or 3 cows on the right-hand side of the parlor. What's special about the receive all system? Look, in the normal milking parlor, you would have 2 receiver groups in the front, just like that. And in addition to that, a milk balance tank, combination CIP, wash tank or wash-up system in the milk house. In other words, in a normal milking parlor, you have 3 containers, 3 milk pumps, 2 or 3 moisture traps, 2 or 3 liquid level controls, and so on, and so on, and so on, with certainly a whole bunch of lines and valves connecting those 3 systems. The Germania receive all system installed here for almost the first time combines those 3 groups in just one single system. What are the advantages? Why did Henk and Ari go with this system? First of all, less stuff to buy, less stuff to install, fewer components to fail, and therefore lower maintenance cost as the years go by. But above all, greatly reduced water usage. We are estimating here they are using maybe 40% less water than they would have used had they installed the traditional system. Now that also means 40% fewer chemicals, 40% reduced energy bills, 40% less water to generate, and 40% less water to get rid of. Holding pen, 30 feet wide by maybe 65 feet long, or roughly big enough for about 120 cows. 2 exit alleys, each 3 feet wide, just right for a smaller dairy like this. For a larger dairy, by the way, we go maybe 6 or 7 feet wide, 5 at the very minimum. Take a look at the floor for a second. Done exceedingly well. Flat squares, maybe 8 inches. Smooth enough for the cow to stand on comfortably, yet at the same time rough where she can't slip. Should she slip anyway for some reason or another, because she's mounted by another cow or crowd gate or whatever, she can never slip very far. In other words, her feet get caught in these grooves. The grooves, by the way, the tiles are arranged on a diagonal pattern rather than fair and square with the world. And they did that because it makes the wash-up just a little bit easier because the water runs away a little bit faster. Thinking ahead a little bit, they added a rather wide gate on each side at the top of the holding pen. It has only one purpose, and that is if a cow goes down for some reason or another while she's being milked, let's say due to milk fever or so, they can then bring a small tractor up here with a front loader, drive right up to the cow, lift her up, put a belt underneath her, lift her out of the way so we can continue to milk. It's also nice to have this gate open for cleanup, only because the traffic is a little bit easier from the cow platform into the holding pen. During milking, minor detail, certainly on all dairies nowadays we have slip lanes like this. The whole idea is that you ought to be able to walk from anywhere on the dairy to anywhere else on the dairy without ever having to open the gate or climb a fence. So these kind of slip lanes on this dairy have been considered and built in everywhere, and you ought to do the same thing for your dairy. As in any well-planned facility, there's a crowd gate. The crowd gate, by the way, is all air pressure operated. That goes without saying. It's an exceptionally heavy gate, by the way. This gate weighs maybe 1,800 pounds, believe it or not. And there's one detail I'd like to show you, and it goes like this. The gate is a Germania gate. Most of the essential components are made by Germania and shipped to this dairy. The gate portion itself, the long part, was built right here on the dairy with the assistance of the Germania dealer. The lower portion is made from stainless steel. One nice touch the dealer came up with. They decided to cut a little triangle into the vertical member here, bend the lower pipe backwards, weld it back together, only to protect the hocks of the cows in the back of the group here. And that's sort of a nice touch. Nice facility so far. Here is the real story. Nice facility, very well planned, exceptionally well executed in the overall layout, delivering to Henk and Ari exactly what they had in mind when they planned this milking center on paper. But you see, the aim here was perfection. We can't reach it, but perfection is in the detail, and I'd like to point out a few of them to you so you get a flavor of what we are trying to do. All of this goes back to Germania's Installation Excellence Competition, the International Installation Excellence Competition we started sometime in the middle 80s. It's a competition where the best dealers, the best Germania dealers and distributors from around the world compete for the Gold Medal Award of Installation Excellence. It's an annual competition, the awards of which are awarded to these outstanding craftsmen, the best literally in the world and in our industry, at the annual dealer meeting, wherever we may be having it from year to year. At those dealer meetings, we present these masterpieces to all of our dealers with a slideshow where we show them exactly what the Installation Excellence craftsman, the guy who was in charge of this project, exactly how he excelled and exceeded the normal standards of equipment installation. A parlor installed to the exacting standards of installation excellence, first and foremost, gives you a beautiful parlor. That is self-explanatory. But that is not what installation excellence is all about. That does not go to the heart of installation excellence. Let me show you a couple of things. Installation excellence are details like these valves. Every one of those valves is installed pointed in the same direction, installed at the same height of the floor, with the white hose making an identical loop up to the main line. Or take a look at this minor element. Believe it or not, that's a stainless steel conduit. There's a bunch of air hoses installed from the remote control box of the crowd gate way back in the holding pen. It comes through PVC line underneath the concrete. It terminates right here, comes up through the stainless steel conduit, and then continues up to the actual control buttons which control the crowd gate. The dealer could have run the hoses in the open. He could have used PVC. He could have used galvanized ECM tubing or whatever you call it, but no, he used stainless. The AccuWay control box, just the box that controls the AccuWays. Now there's a bunch of wires and hoses going into and out of this box. Where are they? In a normal installation, they would have come out right here with a couple of tie wraps going somewhere. In a good installation, they would have come out right here with PVC conduit. In this case, they're nowhere visible. Why? Because good planning, there's a conduit inside the concrete wall going somewhere. The point being that a top-notch installation excellence parlor should not have any hoses and wires visible. Now, that can't be avoided at all in all cases. For example, we just looked at the white hose that controls the pinch valve to the AccuWays. But we certainly can make a tremendous effort. We can make an extraordinary effort to avoid any visible hoses and wires. Why is that? Any hose and wire that's visible, first of all, we think it's ugly. Second, in the summer, fly season, The cows walk in and out, switching their tails. Before you know it, they grab one of those wires and take it with them back into the freestall. Take a look at these 3 pipes up there. The upper pipe is a CIP line to the left side of the parlor, AccuWays. The line in the center, coming from the right, is a CIP line that washes the automatic takeoffs and the claws on both sides. It comes to the exact center of the parlor, then splits with a stainless steel Y to both sides. Nothing special, you say? Oh yes, there is. Because in other parlors, obviously in a normal parlor, it would have been more economical to take the line in the center that comes from the right, go immediately down on the right-hand side there in that overhead stainless steel channel, put a T right there, and then run a single line over to the left. It would have saved a couple $100. This way, first of all, it is technically 100% correct, and certainly it looks good. Let me tell you, technically correct. A Y is the only correct way to split a stream of water. You can't do it with a T. Fine, you can do it with a T, but you will never get an even split and the same amount of flow to both sides. Or take a look at this panel here. Honestly, it wasn't necessary, but Hank said, I don't want those open pipes coming down there. Besides, people walk up and down here, and we may have a cow occasionally here, so why can't we cover it up? Doesn't take much. It's just a piece of sheet metal formed in a little box, welded up, polished up, and bolted to the wall with a couple of stainless steel fasteners. You know why we push so hard for installation excellence? Because a parlor that was installed installation excellence style has a much, much longer life expectancy. We like to say it's a matter of aging. You know, a parlor that was just sort of slapped together, lowered cost gets it. You walk in there after it started milking 6 months later, and the parlor looks like it's been working hard for 6, 8, or 10 years. Here's one such detail. You see, it is just any old galvanized gate, and we're opening against tile. The dealer very carefully put a little rubber bumper in there. The whole thing probably cost him every bit of 75 cents, and there it is. That tile will not be knocked away a few months from now. It's a matter of aging and longevity. Let me show you another detail. There's a stainless steel corner here which at first sight fulfills no function whatsoever. Above this, we have a very large diameter, maybe 1.25 inch cleanup hose. They put the stainless steel edge here because without it, this heavy brass nozzle would knock out the edges of the tile. Minor deal. Who cares about some edges on the tile? But you know what? 20, 30, and 40 years from now, Hank and Ari are going to care about that very, very much. And while we are on the hose reel, in a normal parlor, the hose would lay on the floor just like this. Now we're cleaning up with the good stuff, the green stuff, coming from the top, and it sort of accumulates behind the hose. Besides, if we drag the hose across the floor, how long does it take before the hose is worn away? Instead of dragging the hose across the floor, Hank says, give me a little bit of a hose rest there. Okay, and then another one over on this side, and so on and so on. You're getting the idea of it. It's details like these that make a parlor live an awful long time. Let me point out a few additional details that we consider essential to a project that's a gold medal winner in the installation excellence competition. For example, PVC pipe. First of all, PVC, the use of PVC pipe should be absolutely minimized. Now in some cases it's unavoidable and it can get very expensive. When you use it, as in this case, PVC should only be installed with 90-degree elbows. In other words, every run of pipe ought to be parallel to the floor, vertical, plumb to the world. There should be no odd angles, and that includes the avoidance of any and all 45-degree elbows. We encourage our dealers to paint PVC pipe, preferably with an epoxy paint which stays on for nearly a lifetime. Let's look at some holes through the wall. It's a major subject. On every dairy, we have to somehow or another break through walls from the parlor to the milk house, to the machine room, to the attic, into the basement. And how does a dealer make those holes good quality, precise, not so good quality, not so precise, and then how does he finish those holes up? Here's an excellent example. There's a stainless steel plate around the PVC pipe fastened with 4 stainless steel fasteners into the wall. That's about as good as it comes. Here's another example. The inlet to this filter is coming through the floor. They literally had to knock a hole with a chisel into the concrete. They finished it up very nicely, very professional. I don't think there's anything anybody could find wrong with this. This moisture trap comes directly from Germania. We deliver a drain that normally drains right here. In this case, Hank said, not good enough for me. I want this moisture trap to drain where the floor drain is. So he encouraged Rick Baumann to add quite a bit of pipe, 3 elbows, and there is the drain exactly where it's supposed to discharge. Another example, the oil carrying hose from the AccuWay. It's coming through the floor, obviously, but was it really necessary to have this stainless steel conduit all the way up to where the first hose branches off to the inlet port of the transducer? No, it wasn't, but in the professional installation, gold medal winner, that is how it's supposed to be done. A rather large stainless steel enclosure. On the inside, 4 Germania components, which we deliver separately, normally get installed somewhere in the office, maybe in the machine room, maybe in the storage room. In this case, Hank wanted them down here, and he said, just because there's some moisture, why don't we add a enclosure so all these computer type of boxes are protected from the environment, just to be sure. This is only a small basement, but it doesn't matter, small basement or large basement, good ventilation is essential. In this case, Hank had the contractor put in an 8-inch PVC pipe coming through the wall right there with a fan on the outside that brings in fresh air continuously. When it was finished, he looked at it and he said, there's 2 problems with it. First of all, I don't like the way the hole looks right there in the wall, and second of all, when we work down here, the cold air is blowing on my back. How about we add a little bit of a stainless steel shroud, make the cold air go up and down in the room, add a little bit of circulation rather than blowing straight out. And while we're in this area, take a look at this hose holder. That's what we mean by installation excellence. It's just a hose holder. Did it have to be stainless? Want to look at the real minor detail? Take a look at these nuts. Those are stainless steel cap nuts. Normally, these clamps come with any old stainless steel hex nuts. Nothing wrong with hex nuts. But as far as we are concerned, cap nuts give it that special finish. It gives that special touch. Most people won't notice it, but to us, that is a touch of professionalism. Every milk pump that removes milk from a receiver jar needs a check valve. All of you are familiar with a typical 75-cent rubber type check valve, and that's all right. Nothing wrong with them, except, once again, on a larger parlor that works around the clock or in a parlor that qualifies for installation excellence standards, we think the only thing that qualifies is a 2-inch ball type check valve. There it is, from there to there. There's a 2-inch ball right in here. Okay. On top of that, we recommend that every installation come with an air blowout system. In other words, we put compressed air in here at the end of milking. Keep in mind the ball rolls down. It shuts everything into the milk and parlor off right there. We put compressed air in, and everything downstream from here, discharge pipe, milk filter, plate cooler, all the way to the tank. The rest milk gets blown out and into the cooler. Not exactly inexpensive, particularly this component right here. It's a special component made by either G&H or Triclover. The time you put it all together, there's a little bit of money invested here. But if you calculate all of the milk that gets lost without this 3 times a day, you pay for this within a reasonable period of time. By the way, yes, instead of blowing it out, you can also flush it out by adding water to the receiver and then pumping the water into the system and chasing the milk with water. But is that the best way to do it? Is that the right way to do it? We talked about longevity a little bit earlier. How slow or how fast does a parlor age? Let's not forget one point. Ari and Hank built this parlor to last for how long? An absolute minimum of 30 years, maybe 40 years, maybe 50 years. We don't know, but this parlor has to be here for many, 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 many years. The whole intent was that when this parlor is 20 years old and 30 years old and maybe even 40 years old, you walk in here, there ought not be any appreciable sign of aging. A little bit, certainly. But when you walk in here 10 years from now, 15 years from now, you ought not be able to tell how old this parlor is. Has it been milking for 6 months or for 20 years? Let me show you what contributes to aging or what keeps a parlor young. Minor example of a little bit of cable. This is a safety switch, and you're familiar with it, that we need to make absolutely sure the pipe is in the tank during milking and connected to the wash-up system during the CIP cycle. The switch is electrically controlled. Here's a piece of cable. You see, the installer could have taken this cable and run it straight up here. He also could have taken this cable, run it to this piece of pipe, string it up, and then put a little bit of tie wrap around. That would have been perfectly acceptable and nobody would have complained. But he did it the best possible way. A very short piece of cable with 2 strain reliefs solidly anchored. What difference does it make? You see, over the next 20, 30 years, invariably, somebody's going to climb around up here, slip something or another, grab at something to hold himself, and you know what? It's the cable that's going to come loose first. Visible and accessible hoses, wires, and cables is what makes a parlor age the fastest and what ultimately costs you the greatest maintenance expense. Now, we talked about this parlor of being close to perfection. That means we can't do any better the next time around? Absolutely we can. Even the most perfect parlor has things that still can be done better. For example, hoses, wires, and cables. Here, the installer, I suspect, got a little bit in a hurry. You know, all along he took lots of time. All of a sudden he runs out of time. The clock starts ticking. The cows are in a holding pen. Moo, moo, moo. We need to be milked. We missed it on here. For example, what could we have done better right there? Well, for sure, we could have run maybe PVC conduit. It would have been better yet to run stainless steel conduit. This is not acceptable. Let me give you another example. Detergent, acid, and sanitize injector. An excellent job, to be sure. Stainless steel nipples welded on. But could we have done better here? Absolutely we could have. For example, and there's various ways to do this. You put a good installer on this challenge, he'll come up with way better suggestions than I can come up with. But here's one of them. We could have bent these 90 degrees directly onto the wall and then laid a little bit of a stainless steel channel over it. That would have been one possibility. Once again, we could have rectangular stainless steel tubing, conduit. No big deal, but for a touch, it would have improved this particular detail. While I'm giving the installer a hard time, let's also give him credit for one more detail. Take a look at that fastener. It's just a minor in-the-wall screw, but it is 304 stainless steel. And that is the only fastener he has used throughout the installation. Everywhere you look, only stainless steel, nuts, bolts, screws, rivets, whatever. And that's the right way to do it. How about an all stainless steel custom-made fence? Isn't that just beautiful? Made from 1.5 inch and 2.5 inch stainless steel dairy tubing, custom made right here in the dairy. I think it's one of the most beautiful fences I've seen in quite a while. The stainless was the material of choice, and Hank made absolutely sure it was used wherever he wanted it used. Simple box next to the cooler. What do we need it for? Milk charts, milk record. Could have been any material. Why not make it out of stainless? The hose chute that the milk hose goes through to the truck tank. Why not make it out of stainless, custom made right here during the installation? And then Hank says, I need a desk to put my guest book on. So how about we make one out of stainless? And there it is, with a stainless pen. Every milking parlor in America needs one area where you can put stuff during milking. And you know where that stuff normally ends up? On some temporarily loaned shopping cart in the middle of the pit. You know exactly what it looks like. Hank says, not in my parlor. How about we make a custom box mounted right there? And there's his stuff. And how about an all stainless steel clock? Custom made by Norwell Dairy Systems. Let me give you one last example of installation excellence in action. Trying to get as close to perfection as we possibly can. Here is a sign. It is just a sign. What does it tell us? How to set up for milking, and then how to change over for washing. Now we could have done this sign any other different way. We could have printed it on a piece of paper and glued it to the wall. We could have printed it on a piece of paper, laminated the piece of paper, and then riveted that to the wall. Instead, Norwell Dairy System decided to engrave the sign, fasten it to a stainless steel base, and then fasten the stainless steel base with stainless steel screws to the wall. Point being, that sign will be there 30 and 40 years from now, unchanged, exactly the way you see it today. Can we do better? Absolutely. This sign is fastened to the stainless base with glue. Will it hold for 30 or 40 years? Yes, I am 99% sure it will hold. But you know what? For our peace of mind, they could have used stainless steel rivets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then we would have been sure it'll be there 40 years from now. We are just about getting to the end of the tape, and while we had fun pursuing this project, Ari milked the cows. He started at 4:38, took exactly 1 hour and 44 minutes to milk 240 cows, roughly at the rate of 136 cows per hour, or in this case, per man hour. During that time, he harvested 7,444 pounds of milk, or at the rate of 4,252 pounds per man hour. Not bad, Ari. Henk, it is amazing how you guys put this facility together. I mean, it's just outstanding. Tell us a little bit, when you first were thinking about this new dairy, what was going through your head? What were the 1, 2, or 3 most important things that both of you had in mind, like this we have to accomplish, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're trying to do?
We quit actually farming in Holland 5 years ago, and the reason we quit is changing the rules. We don't can make plans in the futures, and the rules were so strong, and that is the reason we quit farming. And then we like to take the time to look around over the whole world, or actually over the whole world, gewoon the countries what we like to see. And actually we look up a couple countries in Europe, Germany, France, Portugal, Belgium, England.
You thought about the eastern countries at all? Poland?
Yeah, we looked at, the East, Germany, that was the most important thing for us. There was more service for the Dutch immigrants. And then we read the advertising from Canada and from the States, and then we decide to flying over the ocean and to look over there. And what we think actually out there was a lot freer life, and there was a lot more possible for farming. And actually the main thing that we see there, the government, he like farmers over there, and we have just the other side in Europe. Okay, and then we look over here, the British Columbia, Alberta and Ontario, and then we flying in the States, and we look up California, Texas, Florida, Michigan, New York, Minnesota, but then still we like really Ontario. The reason we like Ontario is, okay, you have still a quota system there, and you can make more plans in the future. You can grow a little bit slower maybe, but still you can keep going your own way. And actually the reason we take Ontario is also social life beside hard working. You like to make some money or to do some things right. You have to work hard, but besides we like a good social life. We live just here between Kitchener and Guelph, and we really like it over here, and nice area.
So you are 15 minutes away from the city basically?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And there's no matter what side we go to the east, we have 15 minutes, and we go to the west, we 15 minutes too from the big city.
And Toronto is close too.
And
Just 45 minutes, that's easy.
Neither one of you are married?
Not yet.
Not yet? Any serious possibilities?
Always.
You never know.
You want us to put a phone number on the camera right there?
Yeah, you can do.
Underneath.
But we need also,
Subtitle?
she needs a big milk quota. Germania milking parlor.
Well, but as long as you're on it, what's important? If she long as she has a Germania milking parlor,
Yeah.
and she brings
that's the first
specifically what quota could, never mind. Now, presumably, if you sold, how many cows were you milking in Holland?
The highest amount that we milk was 140, 145, but we have to slow them down about the milk quota and the manure quota. It is a combination. We have a manure quota too in Holland.
Oh yeah.
And the manure quota is based on the acres what you have, what you owned. And that's the reason we don't change that. You don't play around with that program what the government have.
Now, if you sold milk quota and cows and land and manure quota, you came over here with a good chunk of money.
Yeah, well, still, we spent it too, and we was out to dairy for 2 years, and we don't like it actually, and we more and more think about, we like to go back in the dairy as soon as possible. And then we push us a little bit, to look up really serious. There's a lot of friends from me who tell me, hey, why you go back in the dairy? You like dairy, yes or no, and we really like it.
Okay, so there's a piece of land. Let's build a new dairy. Okay, you must have had some ideas when you started planning it on paper? Here's what we're going to do, here's what's important to us in building specifically this facility. You must have had some idea, you know, for example, why not 500 cows? Why not a parallel barn? So you must have some specific ideas what you try to accomplish, considering in a way, I would assume that this is the first time you had an opportunity to build a great dairy facility, but probably also the last time.
You're right.
In your lifetime. That's
Yeah.
pretty much your last dairy you want to build, and so
Yeah, actually we're learning a lot in the States, and it is really nice to travel in the States. You can look up farms with 50 cows, and the next neighborhood you hit up 100 cows, and the next neighbor maybe 1,000 cows. And we look around there, we're learning a lot, and gewoon a couple of little things what I can say. Okay, we like the building, the milking parlor, that size that we can expand 400%. And everybody's, I know my dad in Holland, he building a barn, you know, in the 83s, and say, okay, this barn is big enough for the next 8 years, and we're running out of room after 3 years. And that is what we also don't like to see over here. And we see it in Ontario a lot of times, farmers are building the barn, and just beside the barn a drive shed or whatever, and never can expand more.
so when you say 4 times, this is a double 16,
Yeah.
and you can milk 240 cows in, let's just say, roughly 2 hours.
Yeah.
So you're referring by 4 times that you can take the 2 hours and go to 8 hours. Is
Yeah,
that what you mean?
that is what we like to do. And actually, maybe we have to start in the future 3 times milking. We talk about a lot, but we don't like to give it up actually for the social life. Let's say we're milking 300 or 400 cows. We need more milkers, and then it is easier to do to start milking in groups with different hired men. And okay, we're not ready to go for 3 times, but we can on this facility milking 1,000 cows really easy, and that is what actually what our setup is here.
So, on paper, there's 1,000 cows planned.
Yeah.
Yeah,
3
you're right.
stalls are already
Yeah.
drawn in, and
Yeah.
everything is there. So you can go from 200 to 1,000 cows, 5 times expandability. That's
Yeah.
tremendous.
Yeah.
So this really is a lifetime dairy.
This lifetime there. We like the building. Once we have the opportunity to building everything new and everything to do what is we like. Try to do it right. Look around and learning some things for that. And that is what we did actually in the last 4 years before we 2 years before we starting out with the building.
Right. Key question, Ari. You
That's
making any?
possible.
You making any money?
Dairy farmers, they make never money. But when you buy a milking parlor from Germania, then you can try to make money. The important thing is, in Holland, we do always work or milking with one personal over in the milking parlor there, and we try, and we was looking for, when we started in Ontario here, for milking with one personal too. Then we look around in the States and we find there are Germania, and I think everything you go by yourself, you know. It's fun milking in the milking parlor in Germania.
Henk, during the planning phase, construction phase, building phase of this facility, how do you handle it, running a dairy farm and at the same time supervising your next project? How did you go about that?
Actually, it was really nice. We have no milking cows around, and we can spend it all the time looking after the building company and after the people who installed the milking parlor. And actually, we had a really nice time to do that. And I think you can hire somebody to do that too, to look after the whole building or building the milking parlor or the farms, you know, and pay yourself back. You have to stay every day there. Let's say the people from the milking parlor have any questions, you can give an answer right away. And yeah, met the dealership that we had a really nice time gewoon to install it the way we like it.
A good working relationship.
Good working relationship.
You must have looked at a lot of different parlors. Why a double 16? Why herringbone? Why not parallel or rotary? Give us some of your thinking there.
Okay, we coming over and you know pretty quick, you know what you like to do, and we like to have between the double 10 and double 20 milking parlor. And actually, yeah, the body, every sales guy knocked on the door and he liked to show us a milking parlor, and she liked always to show a new milking parlor. I'm not interested to see a new milking parlor. We like to build himself a new milking parlor, that's it. I told the sales guys, okay, I like only to see milking parlors 5 years and older. What we actually see, we see a lot of milking parlors 5 years and older, and she's ready to replace. And then we look up also in the States a lot of milking parlors, and what we see. And we ask the question also on the dealers from Germania, van, hey, you're serious, this milking parlor is 5 years and older. And then she shows us, and he was 6 or 7 years old. And that is one of the reasons we bought a Germania milking parlor. We have the chance to building everything new, and we like to do it right. That's the reason. We're building everything from stainless steel. All the bolts and all the nuts in the milking parlor is stainless steel. But we see also stainless steel milking parlors from a different brand. And then we see also the quality different between stainless steel and stainless steel. And that makes us the decision. You know, you're coming in a milking parlor for 7 years old and he looks new. And I say, hey, that makes sense for us. And then really important for us is to the dealership, you have to look after the service. How is the communication at the dealership? That is really important for us too. And that is a couple of things. And what we really like to see, the milking parlor real simple. Why we have to have all displays on every cow. The milking parlor is to milk cows. And that was one of the reasons too. We like the milking in the milking parlor with one person. The reason we like to see one person. Always I see. And it has always been myself too. You come with 2 people in the milking parlor, you're talking, you know, have fun, don't look after the cows. There's only one thing in the milking parlor, the guy has to milk cows. And not play around with all displays, or I can ask 90 points information from the cow, or he's in heat or whatever. You have to do only one thing. Milking cows and checking what has happened met de udderkwaliteit and mastitis or whatever. And I tell you one thing. After we start out, we have really less problems with mastitis, and the cell count is really low, and that is important for us too.
Tell us a little bit about the quality of milking in this parlor.
The quality of milking actually is, you have to do it easy. You don't stay easy, you know, you don't have the right quality there. And what we mean with easy milking is simple, and it go gewoon super fast. You can hang in all the milkers, and the reason that we take the take-off arms is we don't like to have all the equipment to balance the milker. And that is one of the reasons we take the take-off, you know, and it is really important. How do you hang on the milker? And that is the important thing. And then you never have to touch them more. And then the milker, he can continually look after the quality of the cows. Is the mastitis or whatever or whatever. Exactly. And that is the reason.
You can concentrate on the cows rather than on the milking equipment. That's a very good point. Are you milking an awful lot? And I'm sure somebody must have mentioned to you it's not possible to milk in a double 16 with one person.
Yeah, I heard that many times. But always for farmers, they like to buy a new milking parlor too. And I ask, come over please and milk by yourself. Example, I've just last week I had a farmer in, I said to the guy, go and do it by yourself. And I standing on the front and take maybe 10 minutes and he knows it right away. Another example, my sister, she was over from Holland last summer. In a half hour, she milking all the cows. And the next day I take off and she milked the cows.
Is that right? Brand new?
Brand new.
Yeah.
Yes, I teach her for a half hour and that's it. Is that not? I think that's good.
That is absolutely amazing.
You're right. Yeah, you're right.
Everybody is complaining. Germania milking parlor is too expensive. I tell you only one thing. That is the cheapest milking parlor of the world. And I'm serious in that.
Rick, Hilko, congratulations on a great project.
Thank you.
Top of the profession, right?
You bet.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, to put a project together like this doesn't just happen overnight, and it's not just snapping your finger and there it is. In other words, this is not just any old milking parlor installed somewhere in America. I don't know who was going to talk first, but if we sort of can share your thoughts and how did the project come about, what did it take on your part, how did you get to know Henk and Ari? Just tell us a little bit about the beginning of the project and how you got into it.
Well, it's not every day that you have someone coming into your door indicating early on that what he saw in a Germania parlor he really liked. And some of his first statements were, that's the parlor I want. So early on the customer knew what he wanted. He had studied it He had been on different farms, and he liked what he saw right away. Now, that's not a given. We still needed to earn it after that, but the vision was pretty clear on his part.
So, but there was still competitive bidding afterwards, and
Certainly.
yeah, so it
Certainly.
took
Yes.
a while before you got together on the details.
Yeah.
Hilko, I have the impression, first time I walked into this project here, into this parlor, and certainly every time I've been here, clearly this is not the kind of parlor where the customer signs the contract and then says, I'm busy, you guys go ahead and take care of it. What happened?
There was a lot of involvement from Hank and Ari. I was in the office, so I'm not here every day, but the guys would come back and say that we have a lot of involvement from the customer. And they were here every day. Things got changed
Yes.
along the way. If it wasn't perfect, it wasn't good enough.
Is that right?
And that's a good with us, because we like that ourselves. We're driven by doing it in an excellent way. We want our relationships in an excellent way. We had been pre-warned that Hank was tough, and we said, good. And we like to please tough people.
Exactly. And it does all of us good once in a while to get pushed by a customer who's asking for more than the normal, the everyday, the
And
average.
at no point was he unreasonable. That wasn't the issue. It was just he has a very high standard of what he considers good workmanship.
That was my next question, Hilko. If a customer, if you are trying to install a parlor, that's a difficult enough job to begin with, and sometimes very stressful. But so now the customers there, either one of the brothers or both of them, every day. Logical question would be, what does that do to the working relationship with the particularly installation crew and the installation manager?
In this case, it went quite well, partly because I believe the relationship with them was built on a good basis right from the beginning. We were honest and forthright with what we were going to deliver as far as scheduling, as far as time, as far as the order of the installation, what happens when and what we were going to do. They were here the whole time. Our people built a relationship with them likewise, to the point where they came here on their own with their families, and that I feel that was key in carrying out their expectations of what they expected from us.
You, meaning Norwell Dairy Systems, over the last 6 years maybe, I can't remember exactly, you have earned 3 gold medals for installation excellence, which is an outstanding record. I would think that when Hank and Ari made their decision, that must have influenced his decision at the time he bought the parlor. I mean, he knew about that, right?
Yep.
Because
Yep.
you made darn sure he knew about it.
Yeah, that is something that we certainly put out as a flag on our behalf, because it's influential, and it's going to simply show the customer that we are going to be committed to his project. We call it his project. We're just coming alongside providing product, but we're going to finish it to a point where when he says, when it's finished, it's my project. And yeah, he got very much behind it, very much.
And that's what it takes, right? We at Germania awarded you the Installation Excellence Gold Medal Award for 1998. Is it fair to say that that is difficult to do unless the owner is totally committed?
Yes, they don't need to be totally committed, but they certainly need to see the vision. Their expectations are, you're going to do a good job regardless, and we need to answer, yes, we are, regardless. So now it's a little bit challenging, so it needs to be separated. What does that mean, doing an installation excellence? What is that extra? One of them certainly is well, we'll put stainless steel in a lot of places where you wouldn't normally get stainless steel. We're going to dress it up as good as possible. So yeah, if they don't get a hold of it, we're still going to do a good job. But when they get a hold of it, then they come with their ideas as well. And when you put more heads together, it simply is going to open up to new things that no one may have ever thought about yet. And we've experienced that many times.
4 Installation Excellence Gold Medals. You think there's going to be a 5th one and a 6th one?
There has been.
There has been already? The world just doesn't know about it.
That's exactly right.
Good way to put it.
Well, we tour to a Joseph Hoger, and it's an international tour stop, and that place could have qualified, may have won. To this day, if it would get entered in as a year 2000, I think we can compete. We may do a few things different, but how old is that parlor?
6, 7 years old.
Looks like the day it went in, yeah.
That's correct.
And that's starting to catch, we're starting to gain, it started to get noted that these parlors are how old? How much does it take to upkeep these? And people are starting to talk. And in Ontario, we feel good. The message is getting through.
What is the best milking routine? There really isn't a best milking routine. The range out there is far too broad. You've got large barns and small barns, one-man operated milking parlor, 2 or 3 people in the pit. What's the best milking routine? In order for you to make that decision, you need to see what other dairymen are doing and why. We took our cameras to the Norton Farm in western New York, and here you're going to see the growth of the family farm. You'll see how the Nortons grew from a double 4 milking parlor in 1964, milking just 135 cows, to where they are today in a double 20 milking 600 cows. You'll see 7 family members working together for a common goal. And you'll see a consistent, efficient milking routine. Plus, you'll have that question answered. Can one person really operate a parlor this size? You'll have an opportunity to meet Lisa. Lisa never milked cows before, but today she's operating the double 20 parlor by herself. That's right, 40 machines by herself. You'll want to see the videotape. Order it today. What's the best milking routine? Norton Farms. A new record in parlor productivity. That's one person operating 48 machines, milking 1,086 cows in just a little over 6 hours, and harvesting 5,321 pounds of milk per man-hour. That's what's happening almost daily at the Maple Road Dairy in Saranac, Michigan. And results like that don't just happen. It's the combination of management, the milkers, the cows, the equipment, all coming together and working together just right. Jim and John Hardy, the owners of Maple Row, know exactly what they want from the world around them. Their employees, their cows, their suppliers, and just life in general. Their management technique focuses first and foremost on teamwork. Working together and relying on strength and experience has brought the Hardy team to where they are today. See parlor productivity at its finest and order your videotape today, the 1998 Pro Time Parlor of the Year. Are you interested in finding out what makes Germania parlors work as well as they do, then you'll want to watch this videotape, Parlor Automation for the Next Century. We'll show you 8 complete product groups in detail: ProTime stalls, CIP system, cow traffic system, automatic back flushing, the AccuWeigh milk weighing system, top outlet claws, arm takeoff units, and the receive all system. Find out why milking in a Germania ProTime parlor is a whole new way of life. Order your videotape today. Parlor Automation for the Next Century.